I think people want an apology. I think people want for you to acknowledge the things that happened on stage. I hope that you give that to them.
I never set out for it to be for kids.
This information was always really hard to hear and digest as a 13 to 14-year-old.
There are plenty of other jokes I've made in my career that seemed appropriate at the time, but now I realize were never appropriate to begin with. I've learned from these things and I will continue to learn from them and grow from them.
Because I want it to look like a nasty vagina with blood on it, because I'm a pervert.
There's been allegations of grooming. What do you think they're talking about?
They said they needed to send me bra and panties.
I want to send him something. Do you want the bra, Adam?
I'm still a minor. I'm still 17.
No, I should have never sent a fan underwear. How stupid am I?
Minutes later, they made fun of how my parents would react to the fact of two 30-year-olds sending me bra and panties.
Maybe he'll want the panties, although then his parents will be like, you're not allowed to watch who is sending you panties.
The person I am today as a 33-year-old mother is not the person I was when I started YouTube so many years ago.
Now as a mom, I can see it differently. It's like, you were a mom when you sent my nudes to one of your fans. Being a mom can change you, of course, but you were a mom when all this was happening.
It must feel so like two-faced for you, for all these people who were laughing with you, and then all of a sudden have them turn against you.
But I am not a monster. I am not a groomer.
Mom, don't worry. I watched a boy wear them online first.
There is another person on the internet who is saying that when she went up on stage for your live show, she was a part of the yoga challenge section of your show. And it made them feel gross. Later in life, they were essayed, and when they look back at that moment with you, they feel similar feelings.
I basically felt naked, so it felt incredibly sexually violating. I was younger and my body was still developing and I was still becoming comfortable with myself, so for her to use my body as entertainment on stage really set my confidence back quite a lot.
And there were minors in those chats, and there would be questions regarding their virginity and sex positions.
Right.
Inappropriate questions are being asked to underage people.
That's true. It's completely inappropriate.
It wasn't in a grooming fashion.
Absolutely not. It was in a stupid fashion.
But I want to know, have you been able to / will you forgive yourself?
If you've ever wondered what it looked like to watch somebody attempt to put out a wildfire with a damp paper towel, well, look no further than Colleen Ballinger's recent apology. In what can only be described as a masterclass of completely missing the point, Colleen sat down on the Tea Time podcast with Raven and Miranda to address months, scratch that, years worth of public scrutiny. Allegations of inappropriate behavior with minors, public emotional trauma to minors, and instigating sexualized conversations with minors. And she addressed all of these huge allegations with the same amount of energy that a YouTuber has when they tell you why they haven't posted last week. So instead of accountability, we got deflecting, tap dancing, and the kind of emotional gymnastics that would make any Olympic coach weep. The podcast, originally titled Exclusive Colleen Ballinger's Actual Apology Video, framed itself as an intimate heart-to-heart. Just three amazing women sitting down together to set the record straight, but somehow managing to avoid the record as if they owed it money. Raven and Miranda, which is Raven Simone from That's So Raven, and Miranda, her girlfriend, played the role of supportive hosts, silently nodding along, as Colleen tried to rebrand the entire situation as a series of quirky misunderstandings, as if years of boundary-crossing behavior could all be explained away with a cup and some strategically placed sighs. But what we got wasn't an actual apology. It was a carefully scripted PR performance, disguised to us as casual chat. Colleen seemed to lean heavily on the "I'm just a misunderstood theatre kid" trope, sprinkling in some self-deprecating humor every time a conversation got a little too real. But whilst Colleen tried to blur the lines of accountability, I couldn't help but notice everything in this podcast, even just like the emotional beats, felt rehearsed. Almost as if Colleen had practiced this right in front of a mirror. The whole thing just felt so engineered. So we're going to take a look today at Colleen's attempt of damage control. The tone-deaf jokes, the strategic tears, the conversational bat flips, and of course, the way that Raven and Miranda dealt with this whole entire saga as if they were dealing with a middle school conflict. So buckle up, because Colleen's apology was a performance, and this time, it was slightly better than the last one. Today's video is proudly sponsored by Juvia's Place, and they've just come through with their coffee shop collection. An eyeshadow palette which is full of warm and cool neutral tones as well as shimmers, and they also have matte liquid eyeshadows as well as metallic liquid eyeshadows. Now to begin, I start off with a fresh face and put on my primer. Once the primer is down, I make sure I get my base all the way together. Now I do use some Juvia's products in there, like their I Am Magic concealers. I really love these because they are extremely full coverage. I then go in with the powder, but I've been really loving the Juvia's Place setting powder in brown sugar, and I've been using that as like a regular powder that I would use for my base. Then go in with the Juvia's Place liquid bronzer in color Espresso, and I use that as my main liquid contour. Ladies, let me tell you, you need to make sure that you contour that second chin. Then I go in with the Juvia's Place liquid blush in Barbie Rose before going on with the Juvia's Place Blushed Rouge in Volume 4. I then set my contour with a Juvia's Place contour palette in color Deep Dark before setting my under eyes with the Juvia's Place Cotton Candy setting powder. Now this is where I go back with the Deep Dark contour palette and contour my nose before showing you guys the main event, the coffee shop collection. Now my plan for this video was to follow this tutorial by Riley Isaac, who basically shows that you can get a cut crease effect with a spoon. And honestly, this was very much trust the process because I wasn't really quite understanding it, but honestly it worked so well. So I went in with some of the metallic colors from the Juvia's Place coffee shop collection, blending outwards with my fingers, and honestly it was extremely easy to use. Like if you're a person who's not very good when it comes to eyeshadow, this would be a great place to start. But look at how it turned out. Oh my god, it actually worked. Who on earth would have expected that a spoon could make you look this good? I mean, I've heard about beating your face, but eating your face, girl. She came, she ate, and she didn't leave no goddamn crumbs on the plate, bitch. So if you would like to get your hands on any of the Juvia's Place coffee shop collection, take a look at the link in the description box down below and purchase for yourself. Thank you so much for Juvia's Place for sponsoring today's video, and let's get straight into it. All aboard! The Hummus Express, moving its way down to cancellation station. The Hummus Express. If you write it in a song, maybe the viewers will be patient. The Hummus Express. You should have listened to your team about reacting to the scenes. Can't focus on the facts if your facts cannot be backed. And despite the grooming allegations, Miranda's still poking fun. So on the 13th of November 2025, Raven Simone and her partner Miranda, who host a podcast called Tea Time, posted their video where they interviewed Colleen Ballinger. The video was originally titled Colleen Ballinger's Actual Apology Video. It has now since subsequently been retitled to Colleen Ballinger Tells Her Side. Because the reality is, this wasn't even an apology. Like, yes, at one point Colleen says, "For that I am very sorry," very briefly.
I agree with you. I think that they do want an apology, and I am sorry.
But as for the apologies to the people who actually mattered, the quote-unquote victims, nothing of the sort was seen. So before we get into the crux of what was said and how the public at large reacted to it, let's take a look at the actual video, which is still up on their channel. So to begin with, Colleen Ballinger speaks about her start on YouTube, how she originally started her channel with the intention of actually appealing to adults, but then she generated a younger audience.
When Miranda came to be, it really wasn't, like, that was for an adult audience.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I certainly never thought I'm making a kid show or a kid character or something to entertain children. Like, that was never the goal ever, actually, in my career. And even when I did my Netflix show, they're like, "Oh, there's a lot of teens here. So let's put this on the kids app." And I was like, whoa, this is not a kids show. Like, I do not want this on the kids app. That would be inappropriate. Like, this is 100% not for children. I never set out for it to be for kids, or, you know, it was, like I said in the beginning, my comedy was pretty crass. And you can go back and look at like my old original content, my first videos I ever uploaded. Like my humor was that of like a, mid-20s girl who was in theater and, with all my gay friends we were being like silly and ridiculous and crude. But the people who watched me, they liked that style of comedy and that style of humor. There was no such thing as a YouTuber when I started doing YouTube. It was just a website you could upload videos to. There was no desire to become famous from it. There was no desire to become a YouTuber because that wasn't a thing. There weren't influencers. It was just people uploading videos.
Now, this could very well be the case. However, I feel like the situation with Colleen Ballinger is slightly different because she had in-person encounters with many of the people who came to her shows. So I'm not a big fan of the idea that she's trying to frame plausible deniability, that she could even have this kind of audience because she was experiencing it in real life. Parents were bringing their children to her shows. And if she wanted to keep her performance strictly adult, then stop taking children's money, or their parents at least. So this is important. This is the framework of which we are supposed to view Colleen in. An individual who started YouTube at the very beginning of YouTube when it wasn't popular or it wasn't very monetizable, who was simply making videos just for her friends, who blew up and had this newfound fame in a much younger audience than anticipated, and didn't know how to deal with all of this influence in this brand new landscape. So why was this important to pinpoint? Well, it's to let you know as the audience that she never intended any of this to happen. Shortly after this, Raven then goes on to ask Miranda about how she felt when everything started to go awry, when she started to realize that something big was on the horizon.
When you first got that ting about, oh no, something is going astray, what happened? Personally, internally?
It was kind of a slow build. And I feel like I felt it brewing for a little bit first, It was a very jarring experience. And first, I think I should say, when my audience kind of grew and it went from this older audience to, it spread and there was now a lot more teens watching me. I didn't adjust my comedy very much because I was like, well, they found me doing this, so this is what they like and this is what I like, so I'm going to keep doing the comedy they like. And I did adjust it a little bit over time. But one thing that I didn't do, and I should have been much more careful about, is I didn't adjust my interactions with my fans. And that's something I regret a lot because, like I said earlier, the difference between me and a mainstream celebrity, at least in the beginning, was that I was attainable and look, she'll talk to us, she'll interact with us, and she's talking to us from her living room, she'll talk about anything. And she's so open and she'll talk one-on-one with us. She meets us in person at her shows and whatnot, and we know her, and I didn't think about that when I was interacting with my fans, I didn't think about a power dynamic that could have been there. I didn't think about a parasocial relationship, and I should have. I should have been more responsible in thinking about that, but I didn't even think of myself that way.
Now, in this section, Colleen Ballinger states that it was kind of a slow build and she felt it brewing. But what she's negating to say here, especially as it pertains to Adam McIntyre, is that Adam McIntyre had called her out several years prior. Adam McIntyre was, in fact, one of the first whistleblowers when it came to Colleen Ballinger and her online antics. He posted a video about her on his channel titled Colleen Ballinger Stop Lying on the 28th of April 2020.
As you all know, I was a good friend of Colleen and Corey, and I discovered Miranda Sings in 2012, and I found Colleen through this. I ran a fan page on Instagram that I created in 2014 and a fan page on Twitter that I created in 2013, which I dedicated all of my time to. It was just me supporting the Ballinger family. It was simple. And I've been supporting them all up until recently. I've went to 2 of her shows, 2016 and 2018, and met her both times. After 2016, during a live stream that I'll discuss later, me and Colleen started talking on a more personal level. And by 2017, we were good friends. Or what I would have called good friends.
Shortly after Adam McIntyre's video ended up blowing up, then Colleen Ballinger went on to release her own response video, which was received extremely well, leading Adam McIntyre to become dubbed a liar. Colleen Ballinger ended up posting her own video on her own channel titled Addressing Everything on the 13th of May 2020, so like a month later. So when Colleen Ballinger says that she felt it brewing for a while, she had already made a video response to Adam McIntyre and had the opportunity to end this whole entire situation. Yet, Colleen Ballinger still persisted in conversations with minors in group chats, continued to do live shows where children were heavily involved, create content for children, including her Netflix series, which I believe is rated teen but still underage. So the only reason Colleen felt the situation brewing is because she never took the kettle off the hop. Next up, Raven asked Colleen Ballinger about the allegations of grooming. And Colleen seemed extremely ready to answer this question by openly stating what her intentions were and then flipping over to feeling as if her intentions were being decided for her, before basically stating that she wasn't a groomer.
I mean, it was really overwhelming to, have these words thrown around in connection to me and my name that are really horrible. I mean, that's a horrible thing to be and to be accused of when you know that you are not that. Especially because, in my opinion, that's one of the worst things a person can be. It probably is. And so to be accused of that, knowing that I'm not that.
Are you speaking of grooming?
Grooming. Grooming and in any way harming children.
Yeah.
Is the opposite of something or someone I am or ever would want to be. And so to be connected to those words was devastating. It still is. And and that's something that will
it'll follow you around.
It will.
It will follow you around.
It will.
And I think this comes down to how big the spectrum of grooming is. And also the fact that grooming doesn't have to be done for gratification. Exposing minors to sexualized conversations and topics in of itself is a form of grooming. I don't think there's anybody on this planet who believes that Colleen Ballinger was doing this for like some kind of seedy kink. But I do think that there might be a level of really enjoying seeing children or minors in adult situations without their knowledge. Like, even if we were to rewind back to some of her live shows, like having a young participant put his hands down her pants to go and get some cheese balls, knowing how that looked, understanding how that looked, and still doing it for hers and maybe even her audience's enjoyment. Doing inappropriate yoga poses with a young participant. Knowing how it looks, understanding how it looks, and again, doing it for the enjoyment of herself and her audience. So there is a certain level of gratification there, but I don't think it's a sexual gratification, because I don't for 1 second believe that if this wasn't an enjoyable experience for both Colleen and her audience, that she would even do it in the first place. I mean, this is the same woman who people had found receipts of old videos of her literally putting what can only be described as Photoshop pornography on one of her thumbnails. So if you understand how this could all be received and you continue to do it, then you can't plead plausible deniability. You can't feign ignorance or innocence in any of this. Next up, Raven Simone then goes ahead and says, well, I think the people want to hear that you're sorry. To which Colleen states that she is sorry, but doesn't really go any further than that. Before again deviating to how she felt and why she did her apology and the reasons that she got the ukulele out.
I think people want an apology. I think people want for you to acknowledge the things that happened on stage. I hope that you give that to them.
I agree with you. I think that they do want an apology, and I am sorry. And here's the thing, is when you mess up and when you make a mistake and do something wrong, sometimes you got to keep apologizing for it. And that's what I should have done.
I remember one of the things that we talked about was it felt like you were angry.
Yeah,
and,
I was.
And burnt out and just...
Fed up?
Yeah, fed up.
I was.
Yeah.
And it's very clear. Well, they wanted an explanation. They wanted to understand what was going on. And they deserved that. And I didn't give it to them. Instead, I was angry and sang a song, and which is crazy.
It blew shit up.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And so then to suddenly be like, not only am I not going to talk about this, I'm going to sing this song about it. And it was such a
Dear mess.
choice.
It was such a choice.
I very much.
Such a choice, bro.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I think, I was like getting so frustrated because I was just like, let me just address this. Like, please let me just talk. I just want to talk about this. And so finally after I posted the video, it was shortly after I posted it, I was talking to someone on the phone from my team. And I was like, oh, that was a huge mistake. That was really stupid. It was like there was so much, I have to say something. And finally I let it out.
And this is one of the things it is that I found whilst watching the entire podcast, is that everything always came back to her. Everything always came back to Colleen's feelings, how it is that she felt around this situation, and not any real retrospective look into how she harmed other people. Colleen then goes on to speak about the yoga challenge situation, where she got a young lady to get onto stage and do some inappropriate poses, to which the young lady involved, I don't know whether she wants her name out there anymore, stated that retrospectively it made her feel extremely uncomfortable and also set a precedent in her own life because that inappropriate behavior was allowed on a grand scale for her to allow certain inappropriate behaviors that have caused her harm.
I got called up for the yoga challenge. Now, as soon as I stood up from the audience, I saw Colleen's eyes widen because she realized I was not wearing pants. But for some reason, that didn't stop her from continuing. In fact, no adult at any point stepped in this situation. So we get to the point in the yoga challenge where I am laying down and Colleen is spreading my legs basically as far as she can. She spreads them so far that you can see the spandex I was wearing under my romper, which thank God I was wearing. That is the moment I will never forget, where I was laying under Colleen and she was smirking down at me while thousands of people were laughing, and I was terrified that my body wasn't covered up enough by the spandex or the romper. I basically felt naked, so it felt incredibly sexually violating. I was younger and my body was still developing and I was still becoming comfortable with myself, so for her to use my body as entertainment on stage really set my confidence back quite a lot. And not to mention, after all this, after the show, I had to walk back to my car where there was many men staring at me in a very predatory way that they were not looking at me before because of how exposed I had been on stage. So I literally did not feel safe leaving the venue. But as someone who has been sexually assaulted, this situation gave me that same feeling where it feels like you need to purge and like clean out your insides, just that nasty, gross feeling.
So whether the intent was there or not, this entire situation with the yoga challenge caused her immense trauma. To which we don't get an apology to the young victim involved. We just get, again, more sidelining. Me, I, self. That her intention is never to harm people, that she wants to create a safe space, but also not looking inwards to say that I was not a safe space for people.
There is another person on the internet who is saying that when she went up on stage for your live show, she was a part of the yoga challenge section of your show, and it made them feel gross. Later in life, they were SA'd, and when they look back at that moment with you, they feel similar feelings.
I never knew that was something that would make someone feel uncomfortable and trigger emotions and feelings. I feel terrible about that. Genuinely, when I heard about that, I felt so bad because that is something I'd never want to do, is trigger anyone, but especially a girl who's been through horrible things. I want kids and minors and anyone to be able to feel like they can speak up if they're uncomfortable, and they can speak up about things that they feel are not okay. They need to be able to feel that way. When you're on stage and everyone's laughing and enjoying it and then telling you after, that was the best part of the show when you did this, this, and this. And a lot of the comedy that I did with Miranda, when my audience shifted, I was like, okay, how do I keep this audience that liked this crass humor and now appealed to this younger audience that now is growing so much? And my solution to that was, I will still do these more crass innuendo type jokes, and it'll go over the kids' heads, and then the parents will have something to laugh at and the adults will have something to laugh at that are in the audience. And that was my solution to that.
That was you rectifying what was going on stage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought, well, everyone knows that I'm a safe person and I don't mean anything negative by this. I was like, well, everyone knows this is ingest, and so it's fine for me to do this because the crass jokes will go over the kids' heads and the adults will laugh at it, and that is how it seemed to me. I didn't think more about how that could be affecting the younger people in the audience.
And then we have Raven's girlfriend, Miranda. And throughout this entire podcast, we just see her like underpin everything with a safety net, like a catch-all for everything.
Did parents ever confront you after? Did you ever get any kind of interaction with an adult who said, this didn't feel good for me and my child?
Like in this section where they're speaking about the yoga challenge, she underpins it all by asking, well, did anyone ever say that they had an issue at the time? Bitch, that's not the point. It doesn't matter if people were okay with it at the time. People aren't okay with it now, and you need to apologize for that. People felt so strongly about the way it is that you behaved in the past that they have rendered your career inactive. But this is where we start spiraling into the conversation of, it was a different time. To which Colleen Ballinger then responds by saying that she's never heard anything of that nature where people are upset, but she did have a situation where some parents were upset with her opening sequence where she would say a lot of bad words, and she readjusted her material in order to reflect the younger audience. Meaning, to some degree, she was cognitively aware that what it is that she was doing and saying was inappropriate for that demographic.
Did parents ever confront you after? Did you ever get any kind of interaction with an adult who said, this didn't feel good for me and my child?
No, I never did personally. I don't know if someone got that message and I never received it. The only complaint I ever remember receiving in that way, in person from a live show or anything, was at the beginning of my shows, I used to do a ukulele song where I would sing the hate comments that I received. And it's hate comments, so there was a lot of bad language, and the comments were on the screen, and I would sing them. And we did get some complaints about that. They were like, you're saying bad words like in the first 5 minutes of the show, and I have my young kid here, whatever. And so then I changed it. I bleeped the words on the screen, and I bleeped the audio of it too, so that you couldn't hear or see it. And we also changed on the website everywhere, like, this is a PG-13 show, like, making sure everyone knew that this was not a kid show, because I got that complaint. And so I don't know if we were getting that complaint and it was stopped before it got to me or not, but I never received a complaint like that.
I would honestly go as far as to argue that from that first complaint, that should have at least been the biggest red flag for you saying, okay, maybe this is not what I need to be doing right now. Shortly after that discussion, we then have Raven Simone bringing up the idea that, again, it was a different time. Numerous different comedians and entertainment personalities have done things in the past that they don't stand with today. But then again, delivering this topic of times past, asking Colleen the question, did you feel like people were being two-faced by laughing with you at the time, but then turning on you when things went bad? Again, placing Colleen Ballinger as the victim of her own actions.
Time is interesting. Time is really interesting because if you go back in time for entertainment, there's been many a comedian, many a entertainer that has done things in their early career that when they look back on, they wish they didn't. Because culture changes. While people were laughing with you and quote unquote at you because of the character, it must feel so like two-faced for you, for all these people who were laughing with you, and then all of a sudden
have them turn against you.
Yes, it's painful to see people who supported me and laughed with me and all this stuff suddenly turn and change their mind about it. But I don't blame anyone but me for, I completely blame myself, especially because I know that people do make mistakes and people can learn and grow and change. And one of my biggest mistakes was not listening and addressing things and taking responsibility.
And playing the ukulele.
Yeah, I'm playing that damn ukulele.
So I just don't want you to forget that.
I will never trust me. I will never forget
Okay, just
that.
make sure.
Then after this discussion, Raven moves on to the other more notable incident of the young boy who was putting his hands into Miranda Singh's pants during a live show, which many people have felt is extremely inappropriate. And before Raven can even finish her sentence, immediately her partner Miranda undercuts that with, well, no, it wasn't like that. You're making it sound worse than it actually was. Like, no. The bag was inside her pants. He was just taking one. He didn't have his hands down her pants. Like, the differentiation made any difference when we all know how that looked.
If you could explain why there is a clip of YouTube of a little boy eating Cheetos out of your pants, could you explain that for the audience, please?
Pulling Cheetos. That makes it sound more egregious. Like he's physically eating out of her pants. He wasn't. He was taking one.
Oh, he was taking a... See? That's how things get twisted.
Right. Yeah.
So could you explain it, please?
What a crazy thing to hear, that there's a woman on stage and there's a young person taking food out of her pants and eating it on stage. I mean, that's crazy. A lot of the joke with Miranda was that I would say and do things that were inappropriate or had some sort of sexual innuendo to them or something like that, and it went over the character's head. Like, Miranda was not aware that she was saying something that could be taken the wrong way. That was a lot of the jokes that I did as the character. And so in that particular part of the show that I did, it was probably 8 to 10 years ago that I used to do that bit. Miranda was teaching the audience how to sneak food into the movie theater. Initially, I would bring up an adult, and I'd start eating the snack as we're, quote unquote, watching this movie. And then I'd say, do you want a snack? And then they would take a cheese ball from the top of the bag and eat it. It was supposed to be like, she doesn't realize how inappropriate this looks. And then, there's a clip, like you said, of when a younger person came on stage and did that with me. And the audience is laughing because, and you could see my reaction, like, this is a weird situation that I'm in here, but it got a big laugh and everyone knew that it wasn't just, and this is me trying to, rationalize, that's the word, yes, rationalize the situation.
Then Miranda goes on and asks Colleen about the situation with Adam McIntyre and the story we all know about with the underwear being sent to him from Colleen Ballinger during a live stream. And Colleen seems to reframe the entire situation as Adam McIntyre being some kind of crazed fan who was just desperate to receive these items from her. That he wouldn't let it go, that they wouldn't drop it, and almost placing the blame of her actions onto the minors who were around at the time. And even if that was the case, that would be extremely bad, but that wasn't the case. And I'm going to explain more shortly.
So you have admitted to sending lingerie to an underage fan. And I know you've talked about this before, but I would like to ask you one more time to address this and kind of what happened and how you're feeling about it now.
Yeah, what an idiot is how I feel about it now. I think it was like 10 years ago, something like that. I was doing a live stream, and I always loved giving away gifts to my fans online. So I would send them like a bobby pin of Miranda's or a lipstick of Miranda, an old shirt, Usually it was to encourage them to donate to a charity event that I would do every year. But I loved giving out stuff. And so I was doing a live stream like I did pretty often, and I was opening up a box of clothes that I had bought, and in it was this underwear bra set that I didn't order, and it was we were all laughing about it. So everyone in the chat was laughing about it, me and my friend, and he actually put it on over his clothes and was like, look at this, and we were laughing about it. And there are people in the comments saying, oh, send that to me, send that one to me. And we were like, we're not going to do that, that's crazy. But then there's one fan in particular who kept asking us to send it, and I was like, obviously you can tell in the live, like I'm like hesitant about it because there is a little bit of brains in there somewhere that was like, maybe not, because I hesitated. But then I was like, and I didn't send it. I didn't. But then it just became an inside joke with the fandom, and everyone was like telling me to send it, and he kept asking for it. It was like months of this. And so finally I did, and it was very public and as a joke. And it was like a part of my brain was missing in action of like, hey, this is not a good idea. This looks bad. It wasn't a pair of my something that I sent to a young fan in a inappropriate way, but it was inappropriate. Like, what part of me thought like, everyone will know this is a silly joke in the fandom? Like I wish I'd never done that. That was so inappropriate.
So a couple of days ago, 4 days ago to be exact, Adam McIntyre actually made a video titled Colleen Ballinger Doesn't Want You to Watch This Video. And he basically shows the actual live stream where Colleen Ballinger was attempting to send loads of different personal items to her fans. Now, according to Adam McIntyre, this video is still available on her channel for people to see. But as you can tell from the live stream clip it is that he shows in his video, Adam didn't actually request the lingerie. It was offered to him and then became a joke within the community. But as for Adam repeatedly requesting and hounding her down for this one piece of clothing, that never actually happened.
Something that no one has ever picked up on, which I think is so ironic, Colleen keeps saying, I was begging for the lingerie, no matter how hard he begged, no matter how hard he begged. Look what she reads out that I tweeted.
He's so rude. What made you order these ugly clothes?
Adam!
Oh my god.
Super cute.
Please give me the dress.
Never once was it 13-year-old me that said about the lingerie. What you're about to see very soon is that Colleen and Corey continue to go through my account and they say, Adam, do you want the lingerie? You want the lingerie, Adam. While Corey goes, you want the lingerie, Adam. So if they're going to argue that I asked or even begged for anything on this live stream, the one thing they just read out where I was like, give me the dress. The dress.
Oh my god, that makes me laugh. I want to send him something. Do you want the bra, Adam?
Do you want the bra and panties? Tweet right now.
Oh my god. Yeah, Adam, let me know what you want. He's in Ireland. Hi, Adam. I love you. Okay. I'm sending him something. Maybe he'll want the panties. Although then his parents will be like, you're not allowed to watch who is sending you panties.
Isn't that so funny that even in that moment she acknowledges that like this is weird while Corey is like grabbing his fucking crotch being like, you want it? There you go. There you go. There you go.
Even Mom, don't worry. I watched a boy wear them online first.
So as you can see for Adam McIntyre's video, Colleen's recollection of events is completely incorrect and, as far as I'm concerned, a complete and total lie. There's a lot of different things that Colleen can try to reframe because there's missing clips or we don't know the context or that person never came out and shared their story. But with this one, there is literal tangible proof to show that what she stated as fact actually did not take place. Then towards the end of the episode, we see Colleen Ballinger explain why it is that she decided to come and do the podcast and have this conversation. And I have some thoughts.
That's part of the reason why I'm here now. You know, I kind of was of the mindset for so long, like, I just don't want to talk about it. I'm extremely non-confrontational and I'm very anxious and I will do absolutely anything to avoid a confrontation or avoid someone being upset with me, or I don't want to continue to, you know, bring it up for people that they don't, you know, it might hurt them, or, you know, I just feel like, you know, people have said how they feel about me and I'm just gonna back away because that's what I think that people want at this point. It's kind of how I felt.
You are coming back around to not say, take me in again.
No.
But you're coming back around to say, I know what I did. I know what I need to change. I'm changing. You don't have to love me. You don't have to like me.
Right.
But you recognize what happened. And that
Right.
takes a lot of fucking courage.
Now, Raven, I don't know what is courageous about coming and spinning the block a second time on the internet to tell the exact same untruths it is that you told back in 2020 and not really apologizing to anyone for your behavior, especially as it pertains to the ukulele video. But beyond that, not even taking any accountability to apologize to the people it is that you have hurt in a real, honest, and authentic way. But whatever your definition of courage is, this isn't it. And I'd also go as far as to say there's no courage in changing the title of the video from it being her actual apology to she tells her side, without so much of an explanation to your audience that you may have missed the mark and got things wrong. What Colleen Ballinger is seeking right now that you have afforded her is an opportunity for her to explain her emotions, how she feels, how hurt she's been by all this, how this has had a huge effect on her career, how her life has stayed still, how she's had to stay stagnant, with honestly little to no focus on any of the numerous different individuals who have had their whole lives stopped, an immense amount of trauma throughout this entire huge public saga. And I'm not saying that Colleen Ballinger doesn't deserve to have her side told, but her side should be told with a side of accountability. And I believe that as podcast hosts, that is what your job was supposed to be. But instead, you recast Colleen Ballinger as the victim and the heroine of her own PR nightmare.
The Hamas Express, moving its way down to cancellation station. The Hamas Express, if you write it in a song, maybe the viewers will be patient. The Hamas Express, you should have listened to your team about reacting to the scene. Can't focus on the facts if the facts cannot be backed, and despite the growing allegations. Well, at least Colleen's having fun.
Now, as you can expect, after this podcast went live, there was numerous different videos all across social media of various different commentators giving their 2 cents on the situation. And the resounding chorus from the audience at large has basically been, Colleen Ballinger, stay in the hole that we put you in. And one of those people with one of the largest platforms speaking about it was Trisha Paytas. Now, if you're not familiar with Trisha Paytas' involvement in this entire story, I've definitely discussed it before, so I'll leave a playlist at the top of the screen. But Trisha did an episode of the Just Trish podcast a couple of days ago where she spoke about her involvement as Colleen Ballinger had sent her nudes into a group chat which again was full of minors. Now, this is slightly different as we are dealing with themes of betrayal because Trisha Paytas was her friend and they were pretty close at one point, even started a podcast together at one time.
Hey everyone, I'm Colleen Ballinger.
And I'm Trish Paytas.
But in this, Trisha speaks from the position of an adult who has been harmed by Colleen Ballinger and how the whole ordeal is extremely traumatic for her, so she can't even imagine how it feels for the other young victims who were involved, and basically asks the question, if you're not going to take accountability, why even re-traumatize people all over again for your own personal gain?
You have to start with like just acknowledging or just not bringing it up. Like just keep bringing up stuff and like rehashing, because it's like I'm tired of talking about it. I'm sure Adam is. I'm sure he's tired of having to be like, again with like me being the liar and stuff. Like it's just probably so fresh. It's like a decade for him.
Even Trisha's co-host and husband Moses made an extremely good point that I do want to just pop into this video as well, about it being an accumulation of things. That it wasn't just that she was being inappropriate with minors, but she was also doing this on stage as well as in the DMs, as well as promoting her content, including her books and shows and Netflix productions and all of that kind of stuff to minors.
She just needs to stop. It's the
circle. And it's a combination of things. So it's like, okay, the performances, the audiences, and then talking to them. And so it's like so many things happen, meeting them in real life, meeting Adam, like going to lunch. Like,
yeah.
So it's like there are so many levels and layers to it. And that's why it's an issue.
Yeah.
That's why that people have an issue with it, because it's not one thing.
And he's right. She doesn't quite understand the gravity of this situation. Trisha Paytas even noted that she was speaking about things in retrospect in this podcast interview from the position of somebody who's a mother. Whereas at the time that she was sending Trisha Paytas' nudes to minors, she was already a mother.
Now as a mom, I can see it differently. It's like, you were a mom when you sent my nudes to one of your fans. Being a mom can change you, of course, but you were a mom when all this was happening.
So the narrative that I've grown up and motherhood has changed me doesn't seem to be ringing true. So now that we've taken a look at everything that was discussed in this podcast, what are my final thoughts?
Can't focus on the facts if the facts cannot be back. And despite the grooming allegations, Miranda's still poking fun.
Well, in the end, I don't believe that Colleen Ballinger's quote-unquote apology resolved much. Unless you're counting the fact that she hasn't actually grasped why she's in this position in the first place. What was framed to be a heartfelt reckoning turned out to be much more of a theatrical monologue with like 2 nodding dog co-hosts. nodding dogs that have absolutely no self-awareness. I think that what they were trying to create was like a gentle and forgiving atmosphere. A place that would make Colleen feel a little bit more comfortable to become more forthcoming with her apologies. But Colleen was just dancing around accountability like cracks in a pavement. Instead of actual genuine reflection, what we got was like a PR smoothie. A little bit of deflection, a little bit of nostalgia, some oopsie humor, and just a little dab of victimhood. And a couple of tears, because, you know, that always works well. And it was served in a paper straw that was so flimsy that it collapsed under the weight of its own contradictions. And the reality of the situation is, Colleen, you can't speed run redemption. Actual reflection takes time. And yes, whilst you haven't been as popular as you used to be, it's not like you haven't been persisting online to try and seek the validation of the fans it is that you lost in 2023. Like, let's be real, this is only 2 years. So you're trying to speed run redemption whilst missing every single checkpoint along the way. So whilst this is supposed to be your comeback moment, the comeback is still buffering. Because for now, the takeaway is pretty simple. You can dress an apology video in podcast vibes, friendly hosts, and a warm cup of chamomile. But if there's no accountability involved, it's just empty calories. So if Colleen was thinking that this was going to be the grand reset, well, let's just say that the internet has an extremely long memory. This comeback might have needed the tea just to steep a little bit longer. Anyway, that is about it from me. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. This was just a quick one. I asked you guys on my Instagram group. If you aren't following me on Instagram, definitely go ahead and check me out. I am on Instagram. I'm posting there literally every single day. But I asked you guys what video it is that you wanted me to touch on next. What do you want to hear my opinions of? And that is what you said. You said you wanted to hear my Colleen Ballinger take. I didn't really have much more to add than what other people have already said. So hopefully this wasn't too boring for you. But I am thoroughly behind on schedule, so you will be seeing a lot more from me in the next couple of days. I just want to say to the victims of Colleen Ballinger, I'm so sorry that you guys had to go through this all over again, and this like rebuilding of the same narrative from before, discrediting your own words as victims. But I will say, across all of the videos it is that I've watched on the subject, it seems as if everybody has the same consensus, that we don't forgive and forget too easy. With that being said, tell me what it is that you guys think in the comment section down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, I don't give a shit anyway. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification with the bell. And until next time, you beautiful, amazing, badass bitches. My voice is going. It's Paige. Bye.